Who is the real villain? The speakerphone blaster at work? The tuna for lunch in the microwave menace? Or dare we say it, the serial pen thief? What happens when these tiny little irking behaviors happen in your next cubicle? Or maybe in the break room? Or maybe in the lunchroom? You know the culprit. The person with the small behaviors that drive you insane.
Voices of Victory podcast show. Voices of Victory podcast show.
It is now time for the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
And welcome to Voices of Victory. This podcast episode is titled Cubicle Crimes and Open Office Offenders. We could wind up playing a little spy music today, but we're really not going to. We're just going to have fun and just be upbeat and funky and have a good time. This is going to be that special spy vibe to just introduce that crime theme. You know, the crimes of the office. And we're not talking about real crimes. We're talking about those little annoying, irky behaviors. Now, welcome back to the Voices of Victory show. I'm Mario, if you've never been on here before, and we are going to laugh at some of the absurdities of the office world, because let's face it, some of it is practically criminal. I want to dive into those cubicle crimes, those little things that irk people in the office, those open office offenders. You know who I'm talking about. You know the ones. The people that are chewing really loud, like a cow chewing on cud, the speakerphone blasting people, and the person who steals your pen all the time. It's the law of office etiquette, and they're just getting broken. We're going to start off with literally the loud chewer. We know the type. We know the person. They're first up. So let's talk about them. Because this person could be eating a bag of chips on the other side of your office, and somehow it sounds like they're devouring a full Thanksgiving dinner with their mouth wide open. The worst part about it is they might actually be on the phone. They might even be doing a sales call, and they don't even know they're doing it. They're not even consciously aware to recognize their own behavior. And you know what? Every crunch sounds like a knife in the skull for the first time, each and every time. So if you're a loud chewer, just know we can hear you. We're sitting there pretending to do work, but we're thinking of you. It's really hard for us to do our job when in actuality, that crunching is blasting through our entire nervous system in one shot. It's like getting a jolt of electricity every time we hear a crunch. So are you chewing on gravel? I'm just curious. We got to be careful because in the office, it's good to be respectful. And this is where it comes down to just basic manners, right? We have manners in the office, which is great. And I've been known to be very tough with my words from time to time. But I do believe in having some grace. I do believe that personally as a value for myself. And I'd like to say it doesn't make me special to stand up on a soapbox and bring all these things to the table. I'm just bringing some humor and light to the show that, yes, people are going to be annoyed. They're going to be annoyed. They're going to be frustrated. They're going to be pissed. It's going to happen. But in the office, like, what could we actually do? Well, it comes down to respect, but it also comes down to basic human understanding, okay, which we're going to get into. So if it sounds like people are chewing on gravel on the other side of the cubicle, all right, something has got to give, okay? Boundary city must happen. The next thing outside of the chronic chewer, okay, is the speakerphone offender, the person that decides to just put everybody on speakerphone all the time. But it's not just putting them on speakerphone so they can hear. They put it on full blast. They're like literally, the volume is at 100. They could try to push it. If they were able to push it past 100, they would. And they're at 100. So there isn't, It's the person that always takes their calls on speakerphone right in the middle of the office. And you're just trying to get through your emails. You're trying to read. And suddenly, there's Barry from marketing discussing his grocery list for the week in full volume with his wife. Thanks, Barry. We appreciate you very much. As if we weren't able to read an email. Now, it's like, I didn't really need to know that you're out of milk. Okay? We didn't need to know that. So, again, this is all about offering solutions to really not get angry with that one person across the office. I have a suggestion for those people. If you must be on speakerphone, just please either leave the office. If it's your personal phone, go outside. It's okay. No one will hate you. But speakerphone's a powerful tool, and in the wrong hands, it's a weapon of mass disruption, if you will. Now, the person who steals your pen constantly, and you always wonder, and it's like you have to go by their desk and actually steal it back. Hey, I'm stealing my pen, by the way. And it's like you have to announce it. You have to announce it like, this was mine, and you did steal it, right? So it's like the office pen thief. We have to have that serial pen thief, right? The person who never returned a pen in their life. It's always the same story. You're writing down an awesome idea. Suddenly, bam, your favorite pen just disappears into the ether. We've all had that moment. Like, who took it? Who's got my pen? Who's got my pen? And it could be one of those like gold cross pens that were a gift that costs $129. Then there's a real problem. Then it's like office war right there. Okay. Suddenly you become the god of war. Now, who took it? Who's hoarding all the office pens, right? You know, what do they seem to even do with them? The worst part is they may hoard them and all of a sudden they may just lose them all. This is bad. This is just a humorous revenge plot waiting to happen. But I've been known to mark my pens with invisible ink, or better yet, putting an Apple Air tag on it. Put a nice little Air tag so this way you can find it across the room, right? Now, I'm not crazy, I'm just prepared. Now, let's talk about it. Okay, first of all, try some noise-canceling headphones. Okay, they're your best friend. Okay, they're going to keep you sane. Not only do they block out unwanted noise, but they also give you the power to ignore Karen across the office when she's discussing her diet with her husband for the 100th time. That's a good idea. Noise-canceling headphones. Now, the fortified desk is pretty funny, right? So we want to keep our pens, our snacks, our sanity behind just a well-constructed fortress of folders, files, and things that actually say do not disturb on them. So important. I'd like to say, put things back in your desk if you can. Do your best. I know if you're going out to lunch, that's a great time. If you're going home for the day, that's also a great time. Start putting things back in their place for yourself. This way they don't grow feet and start walking around in the office. Now, every now and then you're going to get frustrated, and there may be a moment where you do have to get up, go outside for a few minutes and just decompress. There are power naps. You could find a quiet spot and just zone out. Your brain will actually thank you later for that. So we have to keep that in mind. All right, so let me just step outside of being funny for a moment, step outside the humor, and talk very real about these topics, okay? Because there is some realness to them. First off, the best thing we want to understand is the whole loud chewer solution. And if you're HR and you're listening, yeah, you're probably going to want to know this. So strap yourself in. Strap yourself in. First of all, the whole loud chewing solution, okay, as mundane, ridiculous, and absurd and frustrating as it is, please bring awareness tactfully. Approach the situation with a level of kindness, a level of compassion. Try to see all sides before assuming. So if you're that person that's a loud chewer, you may want to think twice. So if the loud chewer is unaware, say something that's lighthearted but direct. Hey, listen, I think you really got the crunchiest chips ever. Hint, right? They're making me lose focus. Please stop. Right? Could we save snack time for the break room? I'm kidding on all that, right? But what's most important is just create a quiet eating space. This is the whole point of having a break room if possible. Designate areas for meals and snacks. This way, it keeps the noise away from the workspace. That's so important. And that's another thing. Like, hey, listen, there's a better place for that. Can you find it? Thank you. Now, offering neutral feedback isn't a bad thing. Neutral is extremely powerful. If you're uncomfortable addressing someone directly, it's important to maybe propose an email or even a team discussion about just keeping the noise levels down during the work hours, right? Having that appropriate place to eat. Some offices will not have that problem, and some offices will. It's going to be different across the board. Now, for the speakerphone offender, the people that are on their cell phones, they throw them on speakerphone, or maybe they have a phone in the office they put on speakerphone. There's got to be some clear guidelines to establish office-wide policy to put your headset on, right? Put a headset on, and phone calls on speakers should only happen in private spaces like a meeting room or a phone booth. Maybe if there's 5 people listening, okay, we can kind of see that as a good point, right? It is important to introduce some quiet zones and create some areas specifically for focus work where phone calls and speaker are, otherwise going to belong at a different place. So it's going to be allowed in that location. So you could leverage a little humor to educate people and just be lighthearted. Those little lighthearted reminders like a poster with a speakerphone that says, great for your home, not for the zone, right? That'd be awesome. Take calls outside. That would be great. I did work for a very large, one of the largest IT tech companies in the world, names which I will not mention here. And they had a quiet room. And people were like, well, what is that room for? Oh, that room is just for you to go in and just decompress quietly. That's basically what it was for. And you know what? There was a lot of value with that. And I want to share that with everyone. That was so valuable. It's extremely valuable because you could have by far the worst day in the world. You could be at the level of being what we call emotionally dysregulated. And you would be able to go in that room, put your phone away, and just sit down and breathe deep in absolute silence. Some people would actually go in there on their lunch and actually meditate, believe it or not, because it was like a soundproof, quiet room. So having that quiet room is going to be very valuable for the business, believe it or not. When people are under high stress, they have to be able to reel it back. Super important. Now, for the whole serial pen thief, create a pen lending station. A stock where just communal pen holders are there. It's like, hey, if you need a new one, it's over there. So I work for yet another extremely large organization, another one that's also really huge in the world. And they were one of the largest hospitality organizations. And you know what? Doing sales, there had to be a lot of blue pens for contractual agreements quite often. But they had these special zones where you could always get these blue pens. Like no one was ever short of a blue pen. Nobody. The reason for that was a contract wasn't too far away. So that's another thing. Just having this general area is really valuable. Just keep those personal gold $129 high quality pens just locked away or at least labeled in some way. Okay. Use some kind of distinct pen. Invest in something that's uniquely designed. Maybe it has your initials engraved on it. That would be a smart thing. So they're less likely to be taken, or at least if they are taken, you're like, yep, it's got my initials, thanks. That sort of thing. Label your pens with your name or your initials. It's just a fun twist for that whole heat sensitive kind of problem when people get heated. I mean, you could go as far as UV reactive ink, but I don't think we need to go down that road. Now, surviving the whole open office problem, right? Advocate for movable partitions. Sound absorbing panels would be good. And of course, greenery in the office to create some visual and auditory privacy. Noise canceling technology is powerful. Now, something I can tell you about soundproofing. I do have some experience with sound and dealing with sound in terms of understanding soundproofing. If you're in an office where there's a ton of hardwood floor, that will create very loud acoustics, very loud vibration throughout the whole entire office. So if there's a lot of wood around, the wood floors, wood walls, everything is wood, that could be very echoey, have lots of echo because of just the way it handles the acoustics. However, if you start putting padding everywhere, so we start carpeting the floor, we start padding the cubicles, we start padding everything, not making it look like an asylum or anything like that. It's just simply putting lots of padding around. Curtains as well, like literally having curtains and stuff like that. Well, guess what? That starts to absorb the sound. It starts to absorb all of that sound. Now, noise canceling technology is pretty valuable as well. All right, a lot of the noise canceling technologies that actually exist out there, especially the headphones that are really expensive, like the $329 noise canceling headphones that you see. There are particular brands on the market that literally have a low clamp down. And what that means to you is when it's on your head, you don't feel like your skull is inside of a vice. So the type of steel that's used in the arc that goes over the head is a kind of steel that doesn't clamp down so hard. That's first and foremost. And then the earpieces on them, like actually the foam that covers the ear, they should be designed to keep sound in, but also, noise canceling will cancel out those sounds outside, be able to keep the sound in, but also allow air to come in. So you don't feel like when you take them off that you're just going to grab a paper towel to wipe the sweat off your ear. Sorry, that's gross, but it's kind of true. You want that foam that's going to allow air to actually come in. So they create a little bit of a suction cup effect, but they're pretty valuable at the end of the day. I've actually used them in training in front of computers, and it really blocks everybody out. Like you could be on a computer, and there could be a fight 5 feet away, and you wouldn't hear it. You'd just focus on your computer and what's going on, right? So that's going to be really important. So yeah, those noise canceling headphones, yep, they've gone down in price. It used to be like $329, but now they're really much smaller cost. But the big gains is productivity and, of course, keeping morale in a good place. Having a breakout zone is awesome. A breakout zone could just be, it's kind of like that quiet room, but it's really for more than one person. So it just encourages the use of breakout to just recharge. Employees can actually go there and decompress without any distraction. Now, what's great about these little rooms is they can be used. It can be a meeting room as well, but it can be used to facilitate team communication schedule. Now, the reason why I suggest avoid using a meeting room as a breakout room, I think that's an absolutely absurd idea. I think it's ridiculous. I'll give you the Simon Cowell response. Get rid of it, throw it away, let go, and never consider it an idea ever again. Write it on a piece of paper, bad idea, crumple it, throw it out the window. Let it go down the street and into the sewer. Why is it a bad idea? Because just imagine, you get that one person that had their cat die, and they're really upset. Maybe they can't go home, right? Maybe they just can't, but they're really upset at it. Going to the meeting room and trying to decompress with that is going to be terrible when 9 people walk in and say, oh, yeah, we're really going to need this room. You're going to have to get out. Yeah, what does that feel like? I'm just curious, right? What does that actually feel like for that person? That's my whole thing. Have a little bit of empathy. I mean, come on, have some empathy. Really. So it's just a bad idea. That's what I'm basically trying to say overall, is that having a meeting room being used as kind of like a breakout room or a quiet room is just a terrible idea. It's not a multi-purpose room. Have a designated purpose for people to decompress without distraction. And it's important, please. It's important to do. And in terms of team communication schedules and team meetings, facilitate team communication schedules. Facilitate where those things are going to happen typically. Now, something that I've come up with the idea of what we call a communication DNA profile, is that if you have an incredibly large company and the company is just massive, every department will have literally a document that states how that team will actually communicate. That will be their communication DNA document. Now, why is this cool? Because when you onboard somebody from one department to the other, like, these are the tools we use, this is the communication, this is how we go about it. Now, why do we care? Why do we give a damn for such an idea? Very simply, the people that are out on the road, that are the sales team, are going to communicate maybe differently than, let's say, inside sales would, or perhaps maybe an entirely different department. So having that DNA, it's just getting people to understand that this team communicates a little bit different. And guess what? Certain teams benefit from communication just simply being modified and adjusted. That's why I call it a communication DNA profile. Believe me, this works, but it works in reference to extremely large companies. Now, it's important for you to listen to the feedback too. Listen to the feedback that's going on to your office, literally. Encourage feedback. Encourage ways to improve the workspace. That's going to be important. I don't see why we can't have general solutions for just improved etiquette, regular office etiquette, if you will. Fun, non-judgmental reminders just about the workplace etiquette in newsletters, Slack channels, whatever the case may be. Now, some organizations even go as far as that they'll have a Slack channel and they'll post a operating procedure, if you will. And you have to go read it and put a check on it that you've actually have indeed read it. And I've seen that before. Those are good and those are useful. Where they become absolute trash is when you got 40 of them. And you're expecting everyone to go and put a green check on 40 different procedures. And it's like, oh, well, I guess they all understand. And it becomes really confusing. Because if you're in a place where your protocols are changing every week, that can get dirty fast. It's like, well, last week we were doing X, and now this week we're doing Y. And I put a checkbox on it, but that was Monday. And it just becomes, talk about communication just being way off. There's got to be another way, literally. So having some office etiquette training in a lighthearted way, it doesn't have to be an hour-long wasted period of time. It could just be 5 minutes in the morning before everybody gets started, just in a non-confrontational way. And having an anonymous feedback system would also be pretty valuable too, right? Why not? I mean, come on, do a little jot form, will you? It's not hard. It's not difficult. But it makes it easier for people to address specific issues quietly without the awkward confrontation and without being rude. Lead by example, managers. Please lead by examples. Okay, you should model proper office behavior. You should not be chewing out loud so loudly or being on speaker all the time just because you're the manager and you believe you can get away with it. Just follow suit when you are a leader. Set the tone, set the good example. And that's all there is for this particular episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.